Welcome in. You are listening to Just an Average Podcast with your hosts, Jake and Casey. Sunday evening, Borders got his NASA shirt on. So let's go ahead and right off the bat, everybody listening, everybody watching, let's go ahead and take a guess on what we are talking about today. And I'll give you a hint. It's not NASA.
Close.
Close. Some. Give up.
Is NASA
all right.
a
Well,
lie?
today is all about conspiracy theories.
Do you give up?
Yeah. We're going to find out in this podcast. So Borders joining us today for this special podcast. We are doing a conspiracy theory podcast. Just a quick disclaimer. This podcast is for discussion and critical thinking, not to promote or validate harmful misinformation. Gonna throw that out there. Gotta have it out there just because I don't want people thinking we're just telling straight facts here. I don't want like anybody knocking on my door here, taking me to
The view,
take me to
the views
prison.
and
and then
opinions
here in a couple
shared.
days. Yeah.
The views and opinions shared on this podcast are not necessarily the podcast.
Yeah, not factual, just theories. So, no, we do have a few conspiracy theories to go through today. So those of you listening, we've got 5 conspiracy theories we're going to talk about. We've got the moon landing, the JFK assassination, COVID-19, 9/11, and Avril Lavigne. So 5 topics, very diverse topics, I must add. And we're not going to waste any time. I think we go ahead and hop into this podcast really quick though. Casey, you said you haven't really heard a lot of conspiracy theories. You're not really in,
I
up
hear
to date
about
with
them.
a lot of
I don't.
theories.
I don't dive
Follow
into that
them.
stuff.
Yeah.
Like I've heard like some of these ones that we're going to talk about. I've heard like some conspiracy theories about some of this stuff, and some of it I would believe.
Yeah.
But no, I don't really.
I will
Don't really
tell
dive
you,
deep into it.
when you dive into this, it's like going down a rabbit hole because you'll see something, you do some research on it, then you, like Borders was saying before we started this, get into like a YouTube video, and it's never ending. So let's go ahead and start with the moon landing here. Obviously, there's a lot of theories about the moon landing. The biggest one being NASA staged the Apollo 11 landing in 1969. All right, is that something that you guys kind of believe in, or do you think, no, we actually landed on the moon? This isn't just some kind of, little cinematic shot that was, put up on a green screen. Borders, I'll let you go ahead, and you're the big conspiracy theory guy. I'm going to let you go ahead and start on this one.
So you actually can go to the archives, and there are thousands and thousands of blueprints that were made for the rocket. And we all saw it. Well, we didn't. None of us were alive. Even me. I'm not that old. Everyone saw the rocket take off. So they sent astronauts into space. We know that. So now we're going to go on to the conclusion that they faked it from there. But there's all the blueprints for the moon lander, for the orbiter, and for everything to get back. And it's like tens of thousands of documents. If you're going to fake those documents, wouldn't it just be easier to go to the moon? So that's kind of one of the things I look at. And also there's a lot of reasons that they give and that you have, that, well, this doesn't happen or this doesn't happen. And they can all be easily debunked. I'm in the belief that, yes, we did go to the moon.
So it is, obviously, I am too. I'm kind of in that same boat. I don't think, especially in, 1969, I don't think technology's that great. Shoot, the best, you don't even have, great movies on, coming out with great CGI yet. The fact that people think that is staged and in front of a green screen, you have the arguments like, oh, the flag's waving, which doesn't make any sense. There's no stars in the sky. What else? The shadows and the lighting. They said when the orbiter landed, there should be the blasters underneath should have created something on the moon. So there's a lot of things that I can see people why they don't necessarily believe in it. But when it comes down to it, you got to kind of look at the sources and, dive a little bit deeper into this. I just don't know why we would fake landing on the moon.
I just don't understand. Like I don't know how people think that something that we don't land on the moon, because how would they know what it would be like if you go up there? You know what I mean? Like, how would they know for sure that, oh, it's supposed to do this when you land on the moon? Like, oh, and like the flag's not supposed to, or the flag's supposed to be waving a certain way, or there's no stars here. How do you know?
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
how do you
yeah.
how do you know? Like, you don't know. Like, and the thing like Borders was saying in the very beginning on like, we people saw the spaceship go up. So we just sent an empty spaceship and then it just disintegrated and then right inside the building they're faking the landing. and all of that, like, I don't know.
There's a movie coming out, Borders, and one of you guys might know what movie's coming out, where it's literally they're making a movie about faking the moon landing. Do you guys know what that movie is coming out? Maybe any listeners
heard of
that maybe might know what that movie is. Maybe I'm making it up. Maybe this is just something that I came up with in my mind, but I'm pretty sure there's a movie coming out where it's literally faking the moon landing. No, back to the whole the flag waving. I mean, you're on the moon. It's airless. An airless moon, the flag shouldn't be waving. I feel like you're really kind of nitpicking on a lot of these things on why you think it was filmed on a green screen. And like I said, technology, we didn't see good CGI until like Terminator, Jurassic Park. That's late 80s, early 90s. So the fact that you think this is happening in 1969, I'm going to go ahead and say no. No way. I think this is factual. I don't think it's a theory. So are we all in agreement? We'll kind of go through each one of these as we go through them and think if that's factual, that it actually happened, or if we think it's actually, a theory, maybe it didn't happen. Factual.
I think that's really hard to fake.
I'm going to play devil's advocate to myself, but first, you asked the question, why would you fake the moon landing? So the reason we would fake the moon landing is because of the Cold War.
I know. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
We're in a space race with Russia at the time, and it's to see who can get there first. Well, if you ever can't do it, fake it until you make it type of deal, I guess. But that would be when you ask the question, why would you fake it? That's why you would fake it.
Yeah. And that makes sense, obviously, especially in, the 60s. It makes a lot more sense. Now, I will say now, I mean, we see it all the time. I think you'd be able to fake something like this more now. I think people are more gullible now. I watch videos on social media where I'm like, wow.
Yeah,
and then
look
I'm
at these AI
wait,
videos. Yeah.
That's AI. Like there's some of them, like you have to watch them a couple of times. You're like, oh, wow, this is AI. So the way technology is now, it probably, if we hadn't landed on the moon yet, and that wasn't a possibility, and I seen a video of it, I'd be like, oh my goodness, is this real or is this fake? I've seen so many AI videos that we don't know. But I feel like that's a good one to really kick us off on this podcast, is talk about the moon landing. Any final thoughts on that one? This was kind of a little warm up to get into the rest of these topics here.
Well, you kind of touched on like the flag, and you have to remember 1960s video technology isn't the 4K that we have now. So I'm not gonna say it was a stop motion, but all that is the movement of the flag. There's like 17% gravity on the moon, so there is going to be a little bit of weight pulling on it. It was weighted so that way it would look furled, but it's not waving.
Yeah.
That's them moving the pole and doing it. The footprints was another one. The footprints don't match the soles of their spacesuit. Well, they wore boots over that. You can see the difference in the videos. Like I think you said something about the shadows not lining up. What you don't realize is the moon is very reflective. That's why we can see it at night so clear. And even the sun reflecting off the lander and actually reflecting off of Armstrong himself created more ambient light, which messed with the shadows. So, and I know this is all stuff, any conspiracy person be like, oh no, that's just made up by NASA. But it's just like, no, that's actual fact. And the last thing I'll point out is, and this was actually something that was done on the TV show, The Big Bang Theory, or at least they didn't do it, but they claimed to do it on the show. There is something on the moon that you can actually shoot a laser from Earth, and it'll bounce off of the moon back to Earth, and that's the proof that they say is that we landed on the moon. Now we could have done a drive-by, I guess, and threw it out there, and it landed, and we did it that way. But there's objects on the moon that we can actually reflect things off of back to Earth.
That's awesome. I mean, obviously you know more of like the history and then the technological side of some of these things. Obviously you kind of dive pretty deep into these. But yeah, all that stuff's really interesting. But like I said, I think it's probably pretty factual that us landing on the moon actually did happen. And before we move on to the next topic, I was right. I didn't make this up. There is a movie coming out called Fly Me to the Moon, which explores the idea of a fake moon landing as a backup plan during the Apollo 11 mission. It's got Scarlett Johansson and Channing Tatum. So, looks like a movie that might be worth watching.
I
Let's
think
go
it
ahead and
came
move
out
on to the
last year at
next
this
one
time.
here. Oh, did it really? Wow. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
I honestly might check it out then, since we're on that topic. But the next one here, this is a big one. This is actually the JFK assassination. So let's kind of go through this a little bit. You got the claim that there was a second shooter on the grassy knoll in front of Kennedy. Evidence for that was there's eyewitnesses reported hearing shots from the front. A puff of smoke was seen from the grassy knoll area. And then obviously the film, when you can see this happening, his head actually snaps backward, not forward, suggesting a front shot. So what do we think on this one? Do we think there was a second shooter, or do we think that there was only the one shooter, which was Lee Harvey Oswald, obviously?
This is the one that I'm not going to say it's the way they said, but I'm not going to say it's the conspiracy. I mean, we're still getting CIA documents that were just released, even as far as I think just last week they released more documents. I think the government knows a lot more than what they've said. I think there was quite a bit of a cover up, just with the evidence that's released from CIA and the government since then. You can see, oh, so they weren't really truthful with us to begin with. The whole magic bullet theory, or as they call it in the I think I don't remember what the report was that they did, but the Warren report maybe, that like one bullet traveled through two different people and then ended up on the hospital gurney in pristine condition.
Bullet,
That's the
theory.
one that you on the Zapruder film when you see him grab his neck. That's supposedly that shot going through his neck and then went through the governor's chest, made a right turn. I mean, the movie JFK actually depicts that bullet in perfect on what that bullet. It actually had to make like 90-degree turns to do the damage. They said go through human bone and come out unscathed.
Yeah, not likely to happen. I was reading up on this. Obviously, I'm not. I mean, I'm sure everybody's seen the video of this happening, and it just makes you wonder. Did Lee Harvey Oswald act alone? That's the question. I mean, do you believe, Borders, that he acted alone? Casey, I'll open that up to you as well. Do you think he acted alone, or do you think there was a second shooter?
I think he shot. I don't know if he was the one that actually did the shooting himself, but I also think he was the perfect scapegoat, considering he spent time in Russia. I believe his wife was even Russian. He had been discharged from the military. He was a Marine. He had been trained how to shoot. So, like, I think they had the perfect scapegoat, or patsy as they called him. But I don't think he did. This wasn't something he did on his own.
Casey, any thoughts on that at all? Can he? I mean, maybe. Can you hear me, Casey? Maybe he can't hear me. Casey, can you hear me? Oh, okay. Maybe Casey's just maybe Casey cannot hear me. Oh, Casey's out of here. Might take a little note.
Hey, we're talking about conspiracies right now. I don't want to start any, but they might have just got Casey.
There's a very real chance. Honestly, guys, kind of freaked out a little bit. We're talking about conspiracy theories. Casey can't hear us. The whole thing freezes up. I can honestly say that's never happened before.
I think that people are paying attention to this, and they're like,
yeah,
we can't have that.
I even told him. So happening. Off topic here a little bit, and we'll jump back into this JFK. When I originally sent out the stuff for the conspiracy theories to Borders, it was all blacked out. Like, I had named it conspiracy theories, and I'm like, why is this all blacked out? And then I just changed it to podcast, and it was there. So I'm like, people. I mean, it is a touchy topic for sure.
I was sitting next to him, Casey, and I showed him. I'm like, why did you redact all of this? Yeah. Why is this like a government thing that you just sent me? Like, it says conspiracy theories, and everything was redacted.
Yeah. I mean, I've switched around on screens now. I was over here on this side. Borders flipped over. The whole thing's crazy. But back to the whole JFK. We talked about, obviously, him being assassinated, but we didn't really get into the why. So the claims of why someone would want to assassinate JFK, a few of them were that he wanted to pull out of Vietnam, challenge the CIA after the Bay of Pigs disaster, and then pushed for civil rights and peace with the Soviet Union. So, I mean, there were some reasons out there. Borders, did you have any more of a deep dive into those reasons?
So this is a far-fetched one that I've seen. So at the time, right before his assassination, everything was going on in Vietnam. Vietnam was just starting off. We had advisors over there. We weren't over there as a full military yet. That didn't happen until, I do believe, like Johnson took over, that we actually started sending troops by the thousands. But we had what we called advisors over there. But there were two brothers that were, we'll say, the president and his brother of South Vietnam, and the United States was supporting them. They were wanting to run it. Well, then the actual president decided he didn't want what JFK wanted, and they kind of had a split, and JFK stopped supporting them. Well, they were both ended up being exiled, and both of them ended up being executed because of, they say because of America, because actually they say because JFK, left them out to dry on that situation, and the North Vietnamese were able to get hold of them, and South Vietnamese, and whoever got him, but they ended up executing both the brothers. And because of that, there was a Vietnamese contingency that was supported by the CIA, was the ones that actually were responsible for the assassination of JFK.
Wow. So a really, really big deep dive into that. There's a lot of that information, obviously, that I didn't know, and that's why we have you on this podcast, is so you can fill us in on that information that we aren't even sure about. But one more thing, too, I'm not sure if you heard about it. This is when I was doing some research on these topics, that JFK was actually involved with the mafia. Did you hear that at all? Or have you seen that, read about that?
Yeah, that's one of those. I think that's one that you always turn to once the Jack Ruby situation gets involved, because Jack Ruby was a nightclub owner there in Dallas. And
Yeah.
even though they say there's no direct ties to him with organized crime, they also say you didn't own a nightclub in Dallas at that time and not have some connection with organized crime. So it was almost like, hey, you probably, you owe us money, and it's either you or him, so we're going to need you to kill this guy when the cops bring him out.
That's crazy to think about, because Jack Ruby. Yeah, go ahead, Casey.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really know a whole lot about this, but I've heard. I mean, the biggest conspiracy theories that I've heard about JFK is that the government is behind it. That the government wanted him. The government wanted him out. I mean, just from. I don't know much about history, but he was a very good president. So I don't know, but just from what I've seen and what I've heard is that it was organized by the government. I think this is
one, we talked about, we landed on the moon. This one here, JFK assassination, was there a second shooter? I think, I'm not going to say yes, there's a second shooter, but I'm going to say yes to the fact that I think there was more than one person involved in this. I think it was organized. I think it was planned. And obviously, yes, one person can take this upon themselves to do, but I think, for that time and for the things that were going on, I do believe that this was organized and planned. Borders, are you on that same?
So one thing I don't know. So the guy that is considered,
Harvey
or
Oswald,
the guy that was the one that shot him, apparently, or yeah,
he was in the military. Yeah, so when you were frozen, Borders, yeah.
But he
wasn't military man. Okay, so I didn't catch that. I didn't know what he was. So I mean, so he had to be. So he was a marksman, had a good shot.
I don't remember if he was. I don't think he was honorably discharged. I think he was kicked out of the Marines. He actually spent time in Russia, and like I said, I believe his wife might have been Russian, or at least of Russian descent. So he was almost like the perfect scapegoat for them to blame for this. And like I think this is when you were unable to hear us. I said, I'm not going to say that he did shoot the president that day, but I would guess that he took shots at the car and
to make it look like.
And I'm gonna throw one more thing out there, and this is something you can go watch, Jacob. I know you will. When you watch this computer film, if you watch across the street, I think he's known as the guy with the umbrella, but he stands there, and when the shots ring out, everyone around him ducks, and he just stands there and then calmly walks off.
I've seen that. Yeah.
There's
a lot of suspicion, obviously, that goes into that too. It's a rabbit hole. Like I said, all these conspiracy theories are rabbit holes, because you see that, and then you dive deeper into that, and then you get into the mafia, and it never ends. And I think that's what's so interesting about some of these conspiracy theories is that, some believe in this theory, others believe in this theory, and, in the end, they all kind of tie together a little bit. So I like that. I think that's going to wrap it up for the JFK assassination, unless you guys have anything else to add. But this next one here,
I'm just going to end with this. I think this one here,
go ahead.
We will get answers to at some point, because, as I said, we keep getting files released. The CIA just released even more files. I think it was either last week or 2 weeks ago. They released like 3,200 files or pages. I think, and there's more they haven't released. I think at some point in time, they're going to come out and say, we were involved in this, but it wasn't us. It was the people 100 years ago. and it's going to be your grandkids or great grandkids are going to be like, yeah, I know that happened, but it doesn't affect me, so I don't care.
Yeah, that's fair, honestly. I mean, I can see that happening for sure. But
Right.
yeah, oh my goodness.
Yeah, they're like JFK who?
Was he on TikTok? No.
That's an airport.
Yeah, was
So
he
this
a
next one
TikTok guy?
here, very recent, and this is something I think we can all kind of touch on. And I know there's a lot of different theories about this, but it's actually the COVID-19 was engineered in a lab. Now, for me personally, I have my own theory on COVID, but I want to hear what you guys think. Do you think this was created in a lab, or do you think that this was, it came from bats, or whatever the original claim was?
Okay, so I don't know. I think it's
Yeah.
another government thing in my opinion. It's just one of those things where we were getting into another election, and it was two people that we really didn't want, and well, you know what I mean, like they didn't want Trump and no one wanted Biden, and oh man, I don't know. I think they wanted a scapegoat and a way to get Trump out of there for the next 4 years. And I think that it was created. I think it was something that was definitely made. I'm probably gonna get a lot of hate for that, but I definitely don't think that it's just something that was just it's obviously what is it? What is it technically, like a strain of the flu or something like that?
Yeah.
Is that what it
Yeah.
technically is? So technically it's already something that was already formed, that was already part of something.
And
it wasn't like it's on its
you're
own
getting into
disease.
you're getting into
So,
exactly what I kind of want to build off of.
And I don't know, and I just it's hard for me to believe right now, especially with everything that goes on in the world, that the government doesn't have something to do with everything that we do.
Borders, if you don't
That
mind, I'll go
happens.
ahead and share on my theory really quick, because I have a whole separate theory of this whole entire thing, and this is nothing that, well, I mean, I may have read it, but this is something that I kind of, in my mind, I do believe. So obviously, this outbreak started in, was it Wuhan, China, or whatever
Yep.
it was in China, which was the world's top coronavirus research labs, right? So the reason I think this was created in a lab is I think it was created as a way to kind of control the population. So I think that it was created in a lab for population control, and it kind of got out of hand. Like they're like, hey, we've got a lot of people in the world here. We kind of need to put something out there. I'm not even kidding. I really think this is it. We need to put something out there to, get rid of a few people. And I think that it was literally a form of population control. And then obviously now, all this, well,
Get
no,
rid
so
of
here's the
older,
thing.
get rid of all these older
and
people.
it kind of builds off. So you have this population control. I think it does get out of hand a little bit. Well, now you need a vaccine for this. The vaccine is created. And this is something too that I not think it's too far fetched with how technology is now. Everybody's getting these shots, these boosters. We don't know really what's in these boosters, what's in these shots, but I think there's things in these. I wouldn't be surprised if there's trackers or if there's little chips or something that is being inserted. This is my theory, that's being inserted into our body. All right. And all this stuff that's happening, I think it's a way of government control. Casey, that's what you kind of brought up a little bit. And I think it is the way of the government to kind of controlling everything to an extent. But that is my theory, obviously. And I think that's why they push so hard to get the vaccinations. Like, oh no, you need to get this. You have to get this. It's in your best interest if you get this, and the people that didn't get it kind of got looked down upon. So that's
yeah, I think it's all about money. Like I think everything always comes back to money. And I think that we were in the rise, obviously, with Trump from 2016 to 2020 when it came to the economy and jobs and everything. And I think a lot of people didn't like that. I think a lot of people wanted to continue to do what they were doing and thought that everything was good. And 2020 came along, an election came along, and because when did it come out? January, February, whatever, and the election was coming up in so it came out in March, and then the election was coming up in September, October, whatever, whenever the election is. And shut down the country,
for sure.
shut down the world pretty much. And they're telling you to get all these they're telling you to stay home, they're telling you to get all these vaccinations. But the biggest thing that's crazy to me is that if this is about money, then they gave so much money away when it came to people staying home. and collecting like unemployment checks and
like I said, I just think it was
all that. Like it was it's absolutely ridiculous. But I think I think in the end it was all about money, because now look how much money COVID has made, and that people have made from COVID and companies have made from like the vaccinations and stuff like that. And it blows my mind how quick we can come up with a vaccination for a new disease, but we can't come up with a solution or a vaccination or a cure
cancer.
for
There's one out there. Oh no, there's a cure for cancer.
world
There's
diseases.
definitely a cure for cancer. If there's
definitely
someone
definitely
leaked the cure for cancer, then every single cancer research facility would be shut down worldwide, and you'd no longer have all these, these hospitals and whatnot. And it's sad. That's what I believe, though. I mean, I think that's another conspiracy theory we're not going to get into. But Borders, go ahead and give us your thoughts on the COVID conspiracy theory.
All right, I'm going to deep dive you on this one. So, and this is I'm not going to say this is that I believe this, but this is the most prevailing one to me. As you were saying, Wuhan, China, the big facility there. Supposedly, the story is that some guy ate a bat at the open food market, and that's how it originated and started spreading. I think China. Well, let me rephrase that. Allegedly, China released this, and it goes deeper into just what everyone thinks it is. I don't think it was a population control at a lower mortality rate than the common flu when the numbers finally came out. I think what this is who is the United States' major threat when it comes to military economy, for the use of oil in the world, and it's China now. China probably is the leading superpower over us even now at this point. I think China did this to see what our reaction was going to be. Sorry, I said I think. Allegedly, I think China released this to see what our reaction was going to be and how it was going to turn. They already saw that this country is in dissent. You have the right and the left fighting. You have family members that don't talk to each other anymore because they believe something politically different. I think allegedly China took this opportunity and to see how we would react. And I think when they saw how we reacted with shutting everything down and how much more dissent it caused with rioting in the streets here, that they were like, oh, this is perfect. This is the easiest way to start to take the United States out of being a global power. During that time, there were also large-scale cyber attacks on our military and some of our large installations. You can probably guess where they have, back where they originated from, and there were places in China. So I'm trying to think of the proper word. This wasn't an attack. This was a test, allegedly.
I know. I like I said, I agree. I think we're on the same boat when it comes to that. A lot of really good information, but do you see any kind of truths in what Casey and I said as well, with it being, maybe a form of population control, or do you think this was China just trying to, test the United States, test the world, and kind of see, where everybody's at? But obviously, I think whatever it was they were trying to do, it got out of their hands and fast.
And see, I don't even know if I agree with it that it got out of their hands. I think it worked exactly like they wanted it to. I don't see it as a form of population control. I don't think. When you look at the total numbers of deaths, I don't think they're, like I said, if you go back and look at the number of influenza A deaths compared to COVID-19 deaths, they're not that much different. It's not like one is, that COVID-19 is 3 times the number that the flu was. And I said it from the get-go, this is ridiculous. This is a more serious case of the flu, and people are dying from it. People die from the flu every day. I will agree with you that
you're right.
On the
bingo,
the shot that you would get, the cure, which wasn't a cure because people still got it after they got their 17th and 18th booster shot. But you're correct, and people would ask, well, how can we make a vaccination so quick on COVID, but not for cancer? And even back in 2020, my original thing that I said was, there's no money in COVID. People die too quick. If I can keep you on cancer treatments, I'm going to make the pharmaceuticals are going to make hundreds of thousands of dollars off of prolonging your lack of health.
Yeah, which is sad, honestly. I mean, it's terrible that that's the way, and I really hope that's not the case. I really hope I mean, it'd be great if there was a cure for cancer out there, but I hope there's not. I hope we're continuing to do the research to get the cure for cancer, because if there is one out there and we're kind of, holding that back and not giving it to people, that is selfish and it's a money grab, and it's just kind of disgusting. But I think that is going to wrap it up for the COVID talk. We're going to take a quick break and hear from Smackin' Sunflower Seeds. And we've actually got kind of a touchy subject coming up. It's the 9/11 was an inside job. So quick word from Smackin', and we'll be right back. Smackin' Sunflower Seeds. Choose your flavor and enjoy some of the best seeds on the market. Smackin' goes above and beyond to make sure you have the perfect seed every single time. Enjoy their wide selection that they have to offer. Not sure what seeds to buy? Grab a variety pack and use code AVERAGE or scan our QR code for 10% off. All right, we are back. 2 conspiracy theories left. And this next one here, Borders, I know. Oh no, Casey's out. Casey's gone. Oh no.
China got him.
Oh, there he is. He's coming back. He's coming back. Don't do that to me. Not in the middle of this podcast. Any other podcast. Oh my gosh. Here we go.
Stop being in the grassy knoll.
We have fun on this podcast for sure.
Oh,
okay.
No. So I was doing this and you weren't paying attention. You didn't see me. And then then my screen said refresh. Like I had to refresh. so I refreshed it, and then you're like, oh no. You're like, oh no. You probably thought I did it on purpose.
I was kind of freaking out. Oh my god. I thought you were just gone. But
can't get rid of me that easy.
Yeah. All right, so this was that 9/11 was an inside job. So let's go ahead and talk about a few of the popular claims that 9/11 was. And now I'm gone. Oh my goodness, what is happening right now? This is crazy. So what are some of the popular claims? One, controlled demolition of the Twin Towers. Jet fuel can't melt steel beams. World Trade Center 7 collapse, and then the advanced knowledge by government officials. So a lot of claims. I feel like this is one, too, that I really didn't know it was a conspiracy theory until, a few years ago, to where I actually started seeing some of the conspiracies on this. Borders, I know you've got a lot of information on this, so if you want to go ahead and start with what you think, because I know that you've probably got a deeper dive in this one than you did the COVID-19.
I mean, I could probably talk for a full hour on this one, just different things about it, but
I'll give you 10 minutes.
Yeah, 30 seconds. Go. I don't have any. I do not have any doubt in what the official record is from. What they tell us. What is in the 9/11 report. I don't see any variations to that. I don't see this being an inside job. We didn't do it. It wasn't a cruise missile that hit the Pentagon. My biggest thing is, like, if you're someone that's saying those kind of things, I actually find it disrespectful to the victims of that day. I want to say 100%. That of all of the people that were killed that day, there's like one person from the Pentagon that they don't have DNA for, and there's like 3 people, and I could be wrong on these numbers, but I think 3 people from the Twin Towers that they don't have DNA for. Everyone, they actually have the DNA for all of the hijackers, and a little morbid fact for it. All of the hijackers' DNA is a 27 pounds worth of human flesh. I think there's 18 of them, if I'm not mistaken. I might be wrong.
Wow. Yeah. 16
you think
18,
about the size that the 3 of us are. There's a lot more than 27 pounds of human material there, but that's all that remained of the hijackers. And in that 27 pounds of human remains, they have the DNA for all of the hijackers. And then they say, well, how do they have the DNA? Because you have to have something to test it for. Well, it was simple. They have, if there was 18 hijackers, they have 18 different DNAs that they don't have record for. They have record for everybody else, for family members of the victim. So it's process of elimination. Now, they can't tell me that this guy was the one that was this guy, or this one was this guy. It just says, when they, as the evidence collection, it says terrorist 1, terrorist 2. That's how their DNA is labeled.
Yeah. And some of these claims to, the whole jet fuel can't melt steel. The fact that the impact came through there as fast as it did and as quick as it happened, you've got all of the, it's a structural thing at that point. When you hit something going that fast, it's a structural thing. And eventually, you're going to lose stability and it's going to collapse. So I think that's kind of debunked a little bit Steel doesn't need to melt. Obviously, it just loses it's just going to lose its strength after time with all that stuff happening. But definitely a big one too, and I want to get your thought on this. People claim to hear the sound of explosions, so they thought that there were things already set up in the Twin Towers, and then once the planes hit, then explosions were set off to collapse the two buildings.
So
I mean, you kind of touched on it a little bit.
actually, this one isn't as hard to explain as you think it would be. So I think it was the second tower when it was hit. The way that it was, because the towers weren't structurally the same. There was differences between both of them. And when the second plane hit, the way that it hit, most of its fireball went outside of the building. It didn't actually, blow up in the building. Where they're saying that they hear, like, they obviously firemen are already in Tower 1 after, when Tower 2 got hit. And they say they hear an explosion
Yeah.
after the plane hit. Well, what had happened was most of the explosion was outside, some of it was inside. It traveled down into the boiler room. The explosion traveled down the shaft in the center of the building and exploded in the boiler room because that's just the least resistance to travel. That's where they're like, oh, we felt an explosion deeper inside. They were able to say, hey, this is what this was. This is why you heard that. Other things that they heard exploding, there's record of a police officer was trapped in some of the rubble. He actually was firing his gun so they could find him in the rubble. Other things were cars that were crushed, that they're smashed underneath the rubble, they would explode, like fires in there or whatever. So there were explosions that they were hearing. You just weren't hearing demolitions. You weren't hearing, you weren't seeing, there weren't demolitions in the buildings that they were hearing.
And there was no, from what I read too, there was no they didn't find any kind of evidence of explosions or explosives in the debris afterwards. So I think that kind of debunks that a little bit too. But it's just kind of crazy how these conspiracy theories start. Casey, I don't know if you have anything you want to add on to that at all.
Like Border said, I think it's very. If you really believe that, I think that you probably need to go get tested or just leave this country because it's very disrespectful, and I just I like it's just how old were we when this happened?
2001, so we were 6 years old.
6 years old, and we were in class. Actually, I remember it. We were in class when it happened,
24.
and we don't know what's going on. We just our teachers were just turning the TVs on, and it was all through the school and stuff like that. And it just makes it really, really hard for me to believe that why would the government stage something like that? Like that is like why would this be staged? That's disgusting. That's really, really, really just not right.
I think we can agree these theories are, in fact, theories. I don't think there's anything factual about the fact that this was an inside job. I don't think there's any evidence at all that there was an inside job. This was an inside job. And I'm sure there's people out there that still believe that. You're entitled to your own opinion. That's fine. And that's for any of these conspiracy theories we're talking about. But as far as this podcast goes, I think we are all on the same page that this is a theory. It's going to probably stay a theory because there's no factual evidence behind these things happening. Any final thoughts on the 9/11?
Yeah, I'm just going to, some of the points you had, especially like World Trade Center 7 and advanced knowledge and some of the things you touched on. Just real quick, there's famous videos of, it looks like sparks coming off of the building. And people have said, well, that's the aluminum melting. Well, no, it wasn't the aluminum melting. The conspiracy theory is that's thermite. They use thermite charges to burn through metal structure, actually what that is, and I didn't know this until recently, whatever floor that was on, I don't remember what it was, there was a bank that had just put in these brand new batteries. So because the Twin Towers were notorious for losing power, like they actually weren't the structural phenomenons that everyone thought they were and that they were led to believe. They were after the 93 attack, I think it was, when they set the bomb off in the parking garage. A lot of them were just like, these towers are, they're not that safe. They're not that structurally sound. But anyway, they put these battery packs. It was, I want to say it was like the Bank of Japan or something, put these large battery packs in that. And that's what that is actually that battery pack is burning. And that's what the sparks are coming from. And that's something I just learned here within the last couple weeks. Like I said, I sometimes fall down the rabbit hole.
Crazy. Yeah.
Uh,
It's easy. It's easy to get sucked into for sure.
especially when you like this stuff. And like I told you, I said there's one there. I don't
Yeah.
when it comes to conspiracies, I don't usually get heated. This is the one that you can get under my skin with this one, because if like you're trying to argue and it's just like, no, there's I have facts to back up what I'm saying. You don't have any, and it makes me
Yeah.
mad
You're just being
because of
you're
the
just being
Exactly.
stupid
disrespect.
and just
Yep.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
so jet fuel can't. You
Yeah,
touched on
for
that.
sure.
No, it can't, but it can. The contents of the building can then create a fire hot enough to loosen the tensile strength of the steel. And when you've got 80
Yeah.
floors hanging above you, you're not going to be able to hold those up, and that's going to lead to the collapse. World Trade Center 7, they say that one fell like a controlled demolition. I wish I could remember the guy's name, the guy that owned the building. He ended up getting like $20 billion in insurance for the building. And they're saying that it was never hit by a plane. It wasn't damaged. It was actually damaged under the very first airplane that hit. Debris hit it. And the first, I think, 27 floors was all municipal power, diesel tanks. And it actually burned uncontrolled from the first impact till that building collapsed. So it actually lasted longer than all of the buildings, but it was an uncontrolled burn on the inside. And all the pictures you see of it, I think they are from the north side where it looks like there's no damage. There's only 2 pictures that I've seen from the south side, and it's just an inferno. And there's a famous
Wow.
quote that the owner of the building said, "Pull it," and they're just like, and they think, well, that's where he's saying, pull the building down, demolish it. He's actually on the phone with the surviving member of the staff, because the top 4 people, I believe it was the top 4 people of the FDNY, were all killed. The main chief, Yancey Jr., he actually survived the first tower falling by like kind of getting into like an underground structure, climbed back out, was telling everyone to get out when the second building fell, and he was killed on that one. I've actually had the honor and
That's
privilege to
crazy.
be face to face with some of the guys that were there that day for the New York Fire Department. When I was on the local fire department here, I took some training, and they were the guys that did the training. And just getting to talk with those guys and the stories from that day, it's like that. I think that's one of the reasons why I take it personal too. When
It's probably like chilling.
yeah, I mean, like literally just now, like I can feel the goosebumps on my arms just remembering some of the conversations with those guys.
Yeah.
But like they said, it wasn't pull it. He was telling the fire department, pull your men back. You can't do nothing about it. Just let it burn. Don't risk any
Yeah.
lives. Advanced knowledge by the government officials.
Yeah.
That's true. The problem is, and I'll relate it to the day of the event and leading up to it. There was no inter communication between the FBI, the whatever. I don't know if we had Homeland Security back then, but the CIA had information that there was going to be a large attack. The FBI had information there was going to be an attack. They knew that it had to do with airplanes. They knew they had the names of the pilots before the day, because they all had records of them being in flight schools. I think all but 2 they learned in Germany how to fly, but the rest of them were either in Florida or Arizona. And one of the big things was like, I just need to learn how to fly. I don't need to know how to take off or land. Well, that's not weird.
That's crazy.
So yes,
Yeah.
the government. I won't say that the government knew that day that was going to happen, but all of the major intel sources of government had bits and pieces of the puzzle that, if they would have talked with each other, could have put that puzzle together. And the reason I say it's kind of the same way as the day of the attacks. The NYPD did not have the radio frequencies of the New York Fire Department, so they could not communicate with each other. And if they could have, because I want to say I think it was the police department that was saying, hey, this building doesn't look right. Let's start getting everyone out. So that's why there was less police officers killed that day than firemen. They were communicating. The fire department couldn't see this, and that's now that's changed. Now they can communicate with each other. One thing I do want to go back and touch on, because I skipped over it when you was talking about explosions. Did you know that most of the firemen that were interviewed that day didn't realize they were planes that hit? One of the guys thought it was a helicopter that hit with the one building. They didn't even know all they knew is that something hit one of the buildings, and we have to go in and save people. They didn't, they weren't sitting in front of the TVs. A lot of them, they were doing their daily chores at the firehouse. Said, hey, we got to go. Twin Tower got hit by something. and off they went. It wasn't until later on they're just like, I didn't even realize it was a passenger jet.
That's insane. That's actually insane. I mean, and you talked about technology too, and the communication. Like you see people, I've seen just chilling photos of people like because they don't know what's happening. No one knows what's happening. You see people, standing with their arm around somebody else and they're smiling. As there's smoke coming out of the Twin Towers. Like no one has any idea what's going on. Like people are in a sense of panic. Other people are like, oh, what's kind of happening here a little bit. And being a teacher, it's crazy because we all lived this. I don't think the people that were born after, 2001 or after this happened, they really don't understand the impact that this had on the world at that time. And even me being 6 years old, me and Casey being 6 years old, we didn't really even understand that. But I will never forget, me and him being in elementary school, it felt like everything just stood still.
Yeah.
Like nothing was right. You had parents coming to the school. We literally thought it was an invasion. We thought we were getting, we were going to get bombed. We were going to get invaded. Parents coming to the school, pulling kids out of school, teachers crying. I mean, no classes. We didn't do anything class wise the rest of the day. And it was at the time, I'm like, what is going on? So I can only imagine what people, twice our age or, someone your age really experienced or what you felt as this was happening. But everybody obviously had a different reaction because at the time, no one knew what was going on.
Well, what's crazy is I was actually 23, not 24 at the time, and I was living in the Quad Cities. And at the time, I actually worked at TGI Fridays. And I remember my aunt waking me up, and my first thought was when she's like, "Hey, wake up," because I was staying at my aunt and uncle's house.
Thought you were late to work.
It was no. She woke me up. She's like, "Hey, a plane just hit the Twin Towers, one of the buildings. You need to get up." And my first thought was like, "Oh, it must be like a foggy day," and because in I think it was 1946, a B-25 bomber hit Empire State Building, and it. Off topic, fun fact, that led to the greatest free fall survival per the Guinness Book of World Records in history, because a lady who was injured was put on the elevator at the 71st floor to go down. The cable snapped and she fell 70 floors in this elevator and lived. So
wow.
That was completely off topic, but just
no one's breaking that record.
No, but that was my first thought, was like, oh, another, must have been an accidental, like a plane or something. And I finally got up and walked into the TV, and like that's when the second plane hit, and I'm like, I remember my first words were, "We're under attack. Someone did this intentionally."
That's crazy.
And then, of course, then you have the Pentagon.
Oh, yeah.
Then you have Flight 93 that those guys tried to take over the plane, and they crashed it into the Harris crashed into the ground on purpose.
Yep.
At that point, you're just like, okay, it didn't. I remember watching that, going and getting ready for work, and TGI Fridays in the Quad Cities, that was a busy place. It didn't matter what night it was, you were busy. I think we had 2 tables all night long. Like nobody came in, and all of us employees.
Yeah, I mean, it literally.
It changed everything. All of us employees literally were sat around the bar where the TVs were, just sitting there watching.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. Like I said, it affected everybody differently. And obviously us as younger kids, we really didn't understand the impact of it. But, freaking out just because you see your teachers and stuff freaking out, it definitely puts a sense of fear in you a little bit. But Casey, anything you want to add at all before we wrap up this topic? No. We're letting Borders just kind of dive into these. He's the conspiracy theory guy, so it's basically just like another interview with Borders here. So the last one, though, I know you didn't know a lot of information on. So we're going to touch on the Avril Lavigne. We're running a little long on time here, so we'll kind of skim through this, but it's definitely an interesting one. So it's ending on a mysterious one. So, obviously. This one is Avril Lavigne. The theory is she died and was replaced by a doppelganger named Melissa. So the core claim Avril Lavigne died by suicide in 2003, overwhelmed by fame, and replaced by a lookalike body double named Melissa, who took over public appearances and even recorded music for Avril Lavigne. So I don't know if you had time. Casey, have you heard about this? You have not heard about this. This was something growing up. Like when this happened, I was probably in junior high, like early high school. I thought this was legit because I listened to Avril Lavigne a lot. And like, obviously you see her in these movies, she's in Over the Hedge and whatnot. But I remember seeing this and I'm like, oh my gosh, she actually does look, she does look different. This doesn't look like, Avril Lavigne. So physical appearance was a little bit different. Wardrobe change was a little bit different. The subliminal messages, like the lyrics, was it the song "The Day You Slipped Away"? interpreted like secret admissions and stuff like that maybe she did pass away. And then a promotional photo, I actually didn't know this until I did research. A promotional photo reportedly shows the name Melissa written on her hand, which people took that as a clue. So you obviously have the other conspiracy theories like, oh, there's differences in handwriting, voice tone, songwriting, and public persona.
Have we
but
have we heard of plastic surgery?
Obviously, yes. There's a lot of things that goes into that. Puberty, obviously too, because she was young. I mean, you get older, you change the way you look. I mean, I had hair a year ago.
Look at,
so, Lindsay Lohan.
Just look at all these people that
Zac Efron.
Yeah,
I mean, you see all this stuff now, though. It's just kind of getting out of control a little bit with the AI.
And the thing that blows my mind about this, is yes, she was popular, but why? Like, she wasn't that popular to where she needed to have someone take over her life and do it again.
I thought she was popular. The song "Girlfriend."
Just
phenomenal.
That's just my opinion. I guess I don't. I never even heard about this, so obviously I didn't care that much. But I mean,
maybe she did this to gain more popularity.
The one that we probably should be talking about more than the Avril Lavigne one is the Elvis one.
There is.
Have you heard that? Have you heard about the Elvis one, and that he's still alive, and that he's actually
I've
actually
heard the Elvis one. I've heard the Michael Jackson one.
He has a podcast. What are you talking about?
Don't you watch his what?
He has a podcast.
Yeah. But I mean, this one's the dumbest one.
I agree. Ending on a very mysterious yet fun one. We're getting a little diving into more, kind of the fun stuff a little bit for this last one here. But so Borders, did you have time to research on this? You said you watched a 3-hour video, so I'm intrigued.
Well, I watched a 3-hour video on 9/11. I didn't watch it on this one. This one took 10 minutes to debunk.
Oh, okay. Not on Avril Lavigne.
So Melissa Vandella is supposedly the body double. There's literally no record of her ever existing.
Yes.
And then it took me 10 minutes. At the very last thing that I read, it said, this all originated in Brazil by this paper, which is they do fake articles. It's like The Onion here, but
it took me 2 minutes. It took me 2 minutes to it took me 2 minutes.
I mean, this is a fun one though. I mean, you get all these celebrities, and obviously, like Casey said, Elvis, Michael Jackson, Tupac.
Jake.
Everybody still believes that those guys are still alive.
Out.
Yes.
What you yelling for?
I'm just saying, it gets me hyped up a little bit to
why
think these
go and make things so complicated.
Oh, I see what you did there. I like that.
Borders got it.
It's good.
I did. Both of them. Good job.
No, it's good.
You missed the first one when I said chill out. I said chill out. What you yelling for?
Chill out. Oh my goodness.
And you're like, well,
I'm so focused on this topic.
I can tell that was she like your crush back in the day? Were you into those like emo blackliner girls back in the day?
No, like I said, that was, well, I mean, whatever you consider Emma Stone, but no, I think this is a fun one though. I think this is something that obviously is very much a conspiracy theory. There's no evidence at all to it, but there's people out there that believe this actually happened. So it was a fun one, obviously, to end on here. But
I do.
Any final thoughts on the Avril Lavigne? I thought it'd be.
I don't have one Avril Lee. I do need to make a correction. I misspoke. I called the fire chief Yancey. It was actually Peter Gansey was his name. I mispronounced his last name, so I wanted to make sure I said that correctly.
Well, hey.
So, and then Avril Lavigne's still alive.
Okay.
It's just too bad she liked Nickelback.
Avril Lavigne.
Avril Lavigne
is who she is. Nickelback's good.
Okay.
No, man.
I don't dislike Nickelback. I just can't stand their singer. If you're going to claim to be the greatest rock frontman of all time, you better not be the frontman of Nickelback.
No comment. I like Nickelback.
I don't.
This should open up a whole can of worms. We're already running late.
I don't just like Nickelback.
Yeah,
I love Nickelback.
I love Nickelback.
I personally think that there's two different types of people in this world: the people who love Nickelback and the people who secretly sing their songs in the car and claim that they hate Nickelback.
Like I said, I don't hate Nickelback. I will listen to them. I just don't like their lead singer. It's the same thing with Godsmack. I can't stand their lead singer.
That's fair. Yeah. Yeah, that's
Okay,
fair.
that's fair. I guess that's fair. I mean, everybody's got their own opinion on different singers and stuff like that, but no, I like that. I like that podcast a lot. A little bit different, a little bit more, a little dark compared to the other podcasts we do for sure. But if you guys like this podcast, make sure to smash that thumbs up. Leave us a comment. Let us know. Do you like the conspiracy theory talk? Do you like the football talk? Do you like the movie talk? Let us know in the comments. We cover it all. We'll see you guys next week.